Hold the cheese. Hold the cheese. We look crazy standing there like sitting there with this
Dude,
cheese
I
up.
already took our
Okay.
picture.
We're taking a picture at that
I
point.
did. I took a picture.
You
I took a
did
picture.
good. Okay, so
I got.
share it, share it, share it.
I
Hello,
will.
everybody. Come on in. We're going to get started. We're just sitting here laughing because you know what? This is what we do all the time. When we're on the clubhouse because we're just like cracking up, laughing, or either back texting each other, with jokes and stuff. So, let me give you the what's going on. We have two members that are missing. They're going to try and join us. They had some things that kind of happened out of their control, so we hope that they'll be able to join us very soon. All right. First and foremost, I want to introduce you. It just makes me feel good to introduce you to everyone, and then I'm going to throw it to our moderator. First and foremost, going in alphabetical order, um, Amy Hermon is a high school librarian, and she is the creator of School Librarian United's podcast, and it's now being which I'm just so happy for you. It's now sponsored in part by Capstone, and I know she'll talk about that a little bit as well. And so she is the curator, the owner, the operator of School Librarians United podcast. So welcome, Amy.
Hi,
Our
everybody.
our next guest to this evening, Stacey Nunn. She is a elementary school librarian from Maryland, and she is the owner of the bookieblogger.com website. I'll be putting all this information in the chat, so don't feel like you have to rush and write anything down. But the Bookie Blogger is a wonderful blog that highlights the diversity in K-12 books, so you need to check that out. The next we have is Dr. Steve Tetreault. Dr. Steve Tetreault is a middle school librarian, and he is the curator of I always get the School Library Connect. Here we go. I
So
did it
close.
again. School Library, help me,
Learning
learning
network.
network. See, I always do this, but I'm always going over there and pushing stuff your way. Too much going on upstairs, right?
The
Isn't that a
name's too
shame?
long.
Yes, yes, there we go. There we go. So sorry for that slip up on my part. The next person I want to introduce you to is Lauren Mobley. Now, the reason why I wanted Lauren Mobley to moderate this is that Lauren has ended her very first year as a school librarian. And she's been doing so many things online. She's very visible, and I wanted to show her off in this respect. Is that when I'll speak for myself. When I was a librarian my first year, I was scared of my own shadow. I was also in the company of senior librarians that kind of had the attitude of, no, you got to pay your dues before you can start speaking on platforms. That kind of anal mentality. Yeah. So the thing I want to really enforce is that it could be your first year, it could be your 25th year. Get out there and amplify your voice, for crying out loud. And that's why I'm so proud of Lauren, because she jumped out there and she has really, really, really amplified and her voice, and she has a platform and she's speaking loud and proud. So on that note, I'm going to be participating in the panel discussion. I hadn't originally decided to do it because I was going to run the boards, but because we have two people missing and they're going to be popping in and out, we need to have a little more flavor. With just three people, it has to be at least four people on this panel. So we are the moderators for the clubhouse that meets every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So these are the faces that you see or that you hear online. Okay, so welcome. All right, go ahead, Lauren, take it away.
Hey everybody. So yeah, they're the clubhouse moderators. I'm always in the silent part. Like in the comment section because I'm always too nervous to raise my hand and say, I want to comment. But here I am commenting. and hosting this panel. So thank you, Casey, for having me, and thank you all for being here today. So I just want to start us off with, I'm actually going through kind of a reading slump right now. What are you reading? What's on your plate? Look at Casey's face.
So I can go ahead and answer that. I actually outside of Bookie Blogger and researching all the different new diverse titles coming out for students, I also have a quarterly adult book club. And I name it something different to try to like draw people in. So it was Summer Relaxation. And we read 2 books this summer. One was Read at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson. And the other one was Sankofa. We just finished Sankofa yesterday morning. And so now I'm on to Love Songs by Honorée Jeffries, the letters of W.E.B. Du Bois. It's a very long book. And so I'm not holding a club for that, but I am going to like have like a chat for that. So that's what I'm reading. I'm always reading something. Oh, and I'm reading 6 titles a month, middle grade books, because I am a part of the Black Eyed Susan Book Award Committee. And so we have to read each and every title. So yeah.
Wow. That is a lot.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a reader, but wow. I've been kind of diving through a bunch of different kinds of stuff. We're looking at doing a different couple of books for our one read this year. So I'm trying to kind of get a little bit of a base in a couple of different things that we might be able to bring to the school. So a lot of middle grade stuff, because that's where I mostly focus.
Mm-hmm.
There's the one that I just finished that I really liked was The Second Chance of Benjamin Waterfalls by James Bird. And it's about it's written by a Ojibwe Native American, and it's about a kid, a middle school kid who is getting in a lot of trouble, and he has never really connected with his father, who left when he was young, and he goes to his last chance before he gets basically thrown in jail for thievery is he goes to live with his father, and he's learning all about what it's like to be part of this community that he's never been part of before. Mm-hmm. And it's just so fascinating. It's realistic fiction, but there's this interesting thread of sort of magical realism kind of woven in. And it's really just a wonderful story, really engaging and fun, and also kind of eye-opening a little bit to think about how we kind of see ourselves and how we see others around us. So really enjoyable.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm so grateful to be here. And a couple things. First of all, I am an audiobook fanatic. And this is only my second year in the high school as a high school librarian. And I am proof that you can fake it until you make it. And 16th year as a school librarian, but first 14 years were in elementary. So I have been speed listening through so much that I want to purchase. I have lists of audiobooks I want to listen to, not only because I want to buy them, but I also have lists of books that are already on my shelf that I haven't read. So my to be listened to list is very extensive. I'm reading right now, listening to Lore by listening to Lore, as well as I just finished We Are Not Free, which is an amazing account of different experiences in the Japanese internment camps during World War II, but also some fantasy. I also did Love is a Revolution, phenomenal book, Love is a Revolution. And again, books that are on my shelf and books that I want to purchase. And I want my reader's advisory needs me to spend my time this summer doing this. I do want to mention, because I'm seeing some comments in the chat, if any of you would like a podcast sticker, I've included my Twitter handle. Just follow me on Twitter and message me, and I will be happy to. Or you can contact me, schoollibrariansunited@gmail.com, and I will send to you a podcast sticker. And I love to connect with listeners. So I just wanted to respond because I saw that in the show notes or the chat.
We love your stickers, Amy. We love your stickers. What about you, Casey?
I am reading a very short book, but it takes a long time to get through it. It's called Rice, A Savor of the South Cookbook, and it's written by the James A. Beard award-winning chef Michael Twitty. He has a new book coming out, but this is his first book. And what I like about this is that he visits the old kitchens of the South and the Gulf Coast and also the West African coast. And any dish that has rice in it, he has a historical account about that dish, and also he provides the recipe. So since my mother is here from out of town, and my I have Louisiana roots on both sides of the family. I want to do a little testing with my mom in town because she's a really good, Creole cook, and we're gonna see what we come up with. Yeah.
Awesome.
That sounds delicious.
I know.
But thanks for all those recs. I've seen some comments in the chat about what you guys are reading. Keep sharing those because if you're around librarians, it just comes natural for me to say, "What are you reading?" We're the crazy about books. So let's talk about a little bit about community because, like I said, in case you mentioned, I'm new, and I know there are a lot of other new librarians in the chat, new and seasoned. How or what advice do you have for those that are seeking to find their community and build their PLN? How do you suggest they go about doing that?
Go, Stacey.
Okay, I'll go first. I this is my 5th year in the state of Maryland. I originally taught special education in the state of New York, as well as I became a librarian in the state of New York. And when I got here, I was just eager to start over and reach out. I think I started following Casey. And then we just connected. So I think that it deals a lot with your level of energy, how ambitious you are. I was very fortunate before my former library coordinator retired. She connected me to a lot of leadership roles. I'm a firm believer that you have to work outside of your building and you have to work for free to establish connections, and that's pretty much what I did here. And it's not a brag or boast. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, wow, like how did I make all of these connections? And so then you link up to conferences and everything. So I think that in terms of establishing your PLN, and now you have things like Clubhouse. You didn't have Clubhouse when I became a librarian. Like if you didn't go to meetings or if you didn't put yourself get on committees or go to try to establish, collaborate with your public library, you were just like out there trying to find your way. So I think it's about finding the right group and just not stopping until you do. And it's really a heartfelt story for me because I'm just happy to be here and to have all of these connections, having moved to a new place where I knew anybody. So that's it for me.
I'm in the same place that Stacey is in that, like, I look around and I'm like, how did I get lucky enough to be able to touch base with all these amazing people?
Right.
It was really just kind of luck of the draw that I happened to jump into Twitter right at a time when Amy and Casey particularly and Amanda happened to just be putting out a ton of stuff on the school library channels. And I came across some of their things and started following them. And when they were throwing out ideas and suggestions, I would just dive right back and say, hey, here's something to think about. Here's, oh, I saw that. I loved that. Can you suggest how to do this? And just kind of started some conversations. And from those conversations grew connections and relationships and friendships that have grown so much over the past several years. I'm so lucky and fortunate to have been able to take part in those conversations. But I think that is really what it comes down to, is you've got to share a little bit in order to become part of the conversation. And when you're doing that, when you're getting your own thoughts and ideas out there and kind of throwing some stuff back and forth, you build the connections, you build the friendships. So that's what's worked for me.
That's so true about participating, about putting yourself out there and commenting and interacting to build that great ideas. Amy or Casey?
So I have right now, I'll be honest, I'm like many librarians around the country and around the world. I work by myself. I'm the only librarian in my district. And you would think that would be a very isolating experience, that I'd feel alone. I sometimes hear people say, I feel like I work in an island because I'm surrounded by people who don't do the job I do. But I got to say that when I find inspiring people, I sort of have used the podcast as my ultimate excuse to just say, hey, I'd love to get to know you. I think you have so much to share with our profession. Could we arrange a time to talk and share your expertise with our listening audience? My PLN is every single person I've ever interviewed, and then some. And the reason why I've interviewed them is because I selfishly find them so inspiring that I know other people would find them inspiring. I work alone. There's 120 of us, and the only person who's a librarian is me. I work in a large district. Nobody else does what I do, and I don't feel alone. I have found that connecting with people on library Twitter is this week's episode, because listeners wanted to know, how do I get more involved in library Twitter, library Facebook, phenomenal resources. If you are blessed with a lovely, enormous, department of other school librarians, because you work in Texas or you work in Georgia, it is worth investing in yourself by meeting other people who do what you do and learn from them. We are so generous in what we share. And I'll be honest, that it's not unusual for me to engage with people on social and just say, hey, do you want to talk one day? Because I've got an hour, my commute's almost 45 minutes. Steve and I regularly talk on our way home from work. And, just because your PLN is virtual doesn't make it less valid, because the people I lean on the most, I've never met in person. And I will someday. I have hopes, Casey. I have hopes. But the fact is that we support one another in the way that we know how, by sharing what we can and being that authentic source of support.
That's right, because I think out of everyone on the screen, the only person I've met has been Stacey. And Stacey and I met this past June at that shindig that every library did for us. And oh God, see, this goes to show you how bad I am. Y'all, this panel discussion is being sponsored by every library, for crying out loud. I'm so bad and they're going to kill me. Every library has come to the aid of so many librarians across the country. Not only do they help public, academic, and special librarians, they have really come to bat for school librarians in particular, just recently with Amanda Jones and what she has been experiencing. They have been there for her. So yes, it is phenomenal, the work that they're doing, and they are sponsoring this segment. But I'm sorry, I just, it's a lot going on. I'm trying to manage the chat and everything. PLNs are important. And that was the question, right? PLNs are extremely important. I'm the only person that does the type of work that I'm doing in my school. My PLN gets it. And I have a bad temper. And so when I get really upset, I call somebody through my PLN and I'm just like, and I'm usually cursing. So they usually get it. They really get it, because I love Dr. Washburn, but at the same time, he is my supervisor, and I don't want to really just let him see the real South Side Chicago, KC. So it's good that I have that PLN, because they can help me get through it and just do the woosah and calm down, so I could go back in front of the kids and act like I have some sense.
No, that PLN is critical. I've leaned on you guys heavily through social media. The only person I've met in person is actually nobody here. But speaking of social media, there's so many amazing things to see and so many amazing ideas to steal from. What's your advice for letting it inspire you and not letting it impact you, or comparing yourself to what you see online? I know, Amy, you shared an amazing article with me, and you shared it on Twitter by, let me pull up her name.
Margaret Sullivan.
Margaret Sullivan, yes.
Yeah.
About not letting comparison be the thief of joy, and how you can use it to inspire you.
Well, and I read that article honestly at least once every year, because it is so humbling when we see what other librarians are doing in their spaces, that we fail to contextualize what they're doing and how many years they've been in that space, or and that's something that none of our programs happen overnight. And for so many of us, we find ourselves moving around from program to program, school to school, and all of our circumstances are going to be different. And so it's very hard for us to sit there and look at somebody else and say, oh, I'm not doing enough. So, it's really, really important that we recognize that we have so much to learn from one another, but we can't do this in a way that somehow in any way diminishes our efforts. And I'm humbled every time I work with, other school librarians to put together an episode. And I'm not going to let that in any way make me feel like I'm not doing enough. But I'm going to learn what I can, and I'm going to apply it in my space. And my students are better for it. My staff is better for it.
I would like to introduce to you. This is just like we're on Clubhouse, okay? This is just like how we're on Clubhouse. And Chris comes and chimes in, and he says his words of pastoral wisdom, and then he zips out. Hello, Christopher Stewart. Christopher Stewart is a high school librarian. He is and he's the other person on this panel that I know because we work in the same district. He is the Bell High School librarian, and I'm going to put his information in the chat. Say hello. We were just in the middle of a little conversation. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry. I'm at the airport right now, and but I could not miss this incredible PD. And I know that Casey brought it yesterday, and just to have you all, to be with you all here today, just for a little bit because my flight leaves like in 10 minutes. But I had to come on and see your beautiful faces and smiles.
Yes, we're all. I just wish that we could be the jet setters like you are this summer. I just really wish I could get around like you have. Yes. So I'm so glad you're here today.
I'm so glad to be here.
Right, JetBlue customers, we have.
See,
I can hear the airport in
He's
the background.
He's about to leave again. I'm just playing with you. We're having a good time. This is like the Giggle Fest because you know what? Everybody is finally seeing us for the first time instead of always hearing us online, which is really, really cool. I'm going to put Chris's website as well as his Twitter handle in the chat, so you guys will see it and you'll be able to connect because, again, we want to make sure that we just enlarge our PLN.
And I guess before
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, before, if you can hear me before I leave, I just want to, as we embark on another school year, 2022, 2023, there's going to be, immense trauma for our students, as it was last year.
Yep.
But just knowing and leaning into that you are not only the gatekeepers, but you have so much knowledge and skill. And outside of the library science field, but also within every single facet of your lives, which you bring to the table. So that first day, as well as that November day, when it gets a little challenging, just lean into your abilities and your heart and why you do what you do. And yeah.
Someone put in the chat, Katie, don't compare your today to someone's yesterday. That should be the theme for the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's beautiful.
And that's a nice segue into what I was going to say about the whole social media bit. I'm not a competitor, so I've never been, it doesn't bother me that I don't have 5,000 followers or any of those things. I truly do the work that I feel is, and I try to do it as well as possible, and I move forward. And like my grandmother used to always say, if I can help somebody, so like it's not just about me putting it out there to publicize it, to say, oh, I did this. It's really a point of helping some students. And I don't know how I get these things, but and probably some of it is Casey, to be honest, which I'm always grateful for. But like, I'll get an email to say, would you review my book, or would you do this, or can I be part of your network? And I'll say, sure, and so those are the things that make me happy at the end of the day, the same way that you hear feedback from your students when you direct them to that great book. So social media is, you can be in love with it, but it can be, it could hurt you as well. So I try not to focus on that. I really just try to focus on being about the work.
Speaking of the work, oh, were you going to say something, Steve?
Nope, go ahead.
Speaking of the work, I feel like, well, this is my second week of school, and I've gotten a lot of tasks that were not initially in the job description. um, Chromebooks. I'll just go ahead and say it's the Chromebooks. How, among other things, what are some responsibilities that you kind of have had thrown at you, and how are you managing those in addition to the things that you want to do and that you're supposed to be doing to help your school?
I've been trying to think about ways I can schedule my time, like literally just blocking out, I'm going to spend this much time on this task and set a timer. And when that timer's up, I'm moving on to the next thing. And maybe I've got to move through, I might have to come back 4 or 5 days in a row, but that's the only way I can wrap my mind around. Here is something that needs to happen that I'm not super engaged by. So I'm going to just make sure that it's blocked out, and I'm setting myself up in time. And by doing that, I also get the opportunity to, when people come to me and say, hey, can you do this thing? I'd be like, sorry, I'm scheduled for that time. So maybe another time I can help you out.
Maybe later.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I've done this both as an elementary on a fixed schedule and a high school on a flexible schedule. And your first priority is the task that you've been given. If you are on a fixed schedule and you have classes coming every 45 minutes, that is your priority. That there's nothing more important than the students who are in your space at that time. And as a high school librarian on a flexible schedule, my agenda is set by the people who reach out to me either through email and texting, and I give my phone number out so people can text me, because if I'm helping people, I'm doing my job. And what that looks like is going to be different every day. And so it's all well and good that I can create a back burner of things that I'm going to be doing throughout the day but having a back burner and a plan of things that I can do. But as for what I'm doing in the here and now, that is entirely dictated by the immediate needs of my building. I meet my new principal tomorrow morning. I'm coming with flowers in hand. I thought about sushi. I put it out on social. I'm like, do I bring flowers or do I just bring sushi and we just have lunch? But it was decided that flowers are a little better at 10 o'clock in the morning. But, my agenda is going to be set by this new leader, and I'm going to be a partner in that learning. And so what I do is very much determined by who reaches out to me, either through my email, through my, through my messages on my phone, or who reaches out to me and says, Amy, we need you this because we're having this issue right now. And that's my front burner. So, for me, I can have all those responsibilities, but it's what's happening right now in front of me that's going to determine how I channel that energy.
I think Chris is on the jet bridge, or he was. He probably is getting on the flight as we speak. So much kudos to him, because he said the Wi-Fi was a little funny. Well, this group knows that I have been in a 2-year fight about teaching a class, which has been very frustrating. And when you have a school leader that kind of has the attitude of coverage is the most important thing, and I could really care less if you have content that you're trying to teach. And that's really tough, because you don't want to be insubordinate, and you want to be a team player, but at the same time, you don't want to be used and abused. And that's why, Nikita Tyler's presentation yesterday, Divot and the Pivot and the Divot, it really resonated with me, because while I am right about my stance, I also have to remember the bottom line is it's service to the kids. But trying to walk that fine line of there's boundaries that are in place that should not be overlapped. I should be able to be a school librarian, teach my content, and not be shifted so much into other areas and responsibilities that are not mine. So I'm looking at the chat, and some people are having a same challenge, and it's tough. It's very tough to walk that line.
How do you establish boundaries while still trying to be the helpful librarian? Like, I'm here to serve, I'm here to help you, but you're pushing it. Do you say no? How do you approach those situations?
I have said no, and I say no with a smile on my face, not a snarky one, but a smile. But I also couple it with, I would really love to help you, but I have a responsibility to get this done. And if I don't, it's not going to be good for me not to support the students that come down here that need help or either need books, or et cetera, et cetera. Is there another way that I can help support you? I kind of throw it back on them in terms of, I'll help you, but maybe in not exactly the way you need me to help you, you know?
All right. Speaking of boundaries, what about physical space? Has that ever been encroached upon?
Oh, okay. I'll share. I actually recorded an episode 68, called Communal Space. It is both a blessing and a curse, that we are communal space, and it's a hard sort of adjustment for traditional classroom teachers. That very first time you realize this space is not your own. The only thing I can compare it to is if you're a traditional classroom teacher and your room gets used for summer school.
Mhm.
And it's sort of a gut punch, because you're like,
Mhm.
but you don't understand, this is my space. I 16 years into being a school librarian, I still call it my space. I treat it like my space, but it's out our space.
Mhm.
And I think the important thing is that, especially as a school librarian, now that you're in a communal space, all the more important that you move away from that habit of spending your own money on your space. I think it's very easy for for classroom teachers who are in a classroom, a defined classroom that is theirs, to use some of their own pocket money to enhance their learning space because it's theirs. But I can't emphasize this enough. As a school librarian, it's a communal space. Do not get attached to anything. That means you label things because they've come out of the supply room, that they are, if it's your hole punch, your tape dispensers, all of that needs to be coming from the school, because this is not your classroom. This is the school's classroom. And so for me, it is, and I know, because we housed 4 classes of summer school this summer, and I walked away from my library, and I call it my library. I'm like, I miss you, and I'll be back, and I'm a little afraid. But it is a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing because it is the school's classroom. We're going to be made a priority when it comes to funding, when it comes to making it look good, because we are showcasing for the school. You want to make sure that you also embrace all the good things that come with being the school's classroom. And does that mean you're going to be moving some furniture around? Absolutely. But you know what? It is the impact, the potential we have to make on our school is such an opportunity. It far outweighs the fact that we are letting go of that ownership.
Some people see it as too much of a communal space. I've got teachers that wander through and they'll see something they like and they'll just take it with them. Like, we have a maker space that has benches with magnets underneath, and we've got stools that are magnetized to fit underneath the benches. It's a set. It all goes together. There's 6 stools at each table, and 3 of the stools disappeared one day. And I was like, I know we've got some joker students, but did one of the students come in and grab one of these stools? So I was talking to the custodians about it, and one of them went, oh, those stools over there? I might know where those went. And he disappeared, and he came back an hour or 2 later, and he had them. And I said, oh, where were they? He was like, oh, they were in another place. And he didn't want to kind of talk about it. He didn't want to give anybody up, which I appreciated. But he was like, yeah, well, one of the teachers grabbed them and they've been using them in their classroom. I was like, you can't, this is not a furniture warehouse. You can't just come on through and kind of help yourself. So definitely got to work on getting labels on every single thing in that space in the future.
So
I agree.
No, go ahead.
I agree. I don't want to say it's a constant fight because that sounds really mean. But there are mornings that you come in and you find foreign objects on your tables in the library that weren't there the night before. I've already bugged Casey about this one, but I had an issue, and I don't want to get too deep into it, where I was having a problem with having a workspace, like, not even an office, but like a workspace, and I had to advocate for the library itself, saying the library, if I use all of this space like it's supposed to be, I need a space where I can work and prepare lessons as an elementary librarian. It's a total different ball game. So I think that there's a lot of pros and cons. I do say that the library is a community space, but there still are rules in a community space, right? When we go to the public library, there are rules. If you don't follow those rules, you have to leave. I think that because librarians are so transient, like Amy said in the beginning, like we might be in this building, this might be our first year in the building, this might be our 10th year in the building. I think that it's all about the tone that you set, because the previous librarian may have not operated in the same fashion that you, and it actually, honestly, in some ways, depending on how that went, could make your job a lot harder. So when you're thinking about the space, not only like showcasing and displaying, think about the tone that you're setting throughout the building for the library and the importance of the library itself. That's my take on it.
I was gonna say I don't even have an office. I sit at the circulation desk, so I try to make like a little corner my space, but it's not my space. It's everyone's space, unfortunately. So I'm gonna lay the hammer down. About and that's our timer actually. So can we get to the last question? Like 2 minutes. I'm waiting for the. Oh, you're on mute, Casey. Can we do one more question?
I was talking to the kids. Sorry about that. Wow, the time has really flown by. We sitting here laughing at Kiki Ken. Okay.
I know. Before we go, though, I wanted to ask about just maintaining wellness and self care. What are some suggestions that you guys have? Leave us with a bit of encouragement, some wise words before you wrap up.
I can start off. There's a number of things I do, like at home. I,
Mhm.
I have a cutoff time where I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything, talking to anyone at work anymore, or I'm not responding to any concerns because, I'm 52. A lot of my coworkers are in their late 20s and 30s. They can stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning and then get up and be on time for work. That's just not my ministry anymore. I need sleep. And I'm tired after dealing with the wonderful middle schoolers. So you have to set the boundaries. The other thing is you have to find things that make you laugh. I have
Mhm.
gotten into a lot of crazy reality TV shows, and you all know I always end on time so I can get in one of the housewife shows. You always hear me saying that. And the third thing is, for happiness sakes, I love cats. I have a tendency to look at a lot of TikTok and reels from IG with
Yes,
cats.
not
You
the
have
best.
to find some personal happiness because there's things that are going to make you mad.
Mhm.
And if you can't talk to your PLN, you better find something on that phone to keep you
Mhm.
occupied so you don't mess up and say something and then, or either get online and say something and then you will regret it later.
Mhm.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I made,
So,
oops.
oh, sorry, Stacey. You go ahead.
I just have two things. I meditate and walk. I try to post pictures of me walking. You can see it on my Twitter. I meditate like twice a week. My kids are, even when they're like banging on the door, I don't budge. This is my time. And then I walk. Like I went for a 3.5 mile walk this morning, and I'm so used to it now that if I don't go for a couple of days, I feel awful. So those are my two things.
Okay. So like Casey, I'm also 52. So I'm gonna I've embraced my mortality. But I also the podcast for me is what really does fill my bucket. But I will say when I realize I need to step away, I live in Michigan. I inherited a beautiful garden from my parents. I live in the house I lived in when I was a child, and they left me a beautiful garden. And so we're in Michigan. So if there aren't weeds to pull, there's leaves to rake or there's snow to shovel. But getting outside and seeing the difference I can make in my garden has always been really important to me. And our children don't live at home anymore. So when I really need to reconnect, I reach out to my children.
And I'm going to say, I see it coming up in the chat a lot, leaving on time. I have got a timer. I've got an alarm set for every day. And when it goes off, it plays the song Closing Time by Semisonic so that I know it is time to get out of here. Everybody hit the bricks. We're going home. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So I've got that set Monday through Friday. That goes off. I'm packing up and I'm getting ready to go. And if I have to cut myself off, I do that. But that way I never, because I am somebody who, if I get into a project, I keep going until it's done, and I'll look up and it's 6 p.m. I'm like, I can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So I had to start doing this, and it's become a real important part of my day, I'll say. So set yourself a timer.
I support that. There's a joke, like I was like close to the door, so 4:15 I'm out, and the teachers will come behind me like, "Oh, Miss Mobley, you're still here?" No, I gotta go. It's time to check the deuces. All right. Wow. I think we're over time, Casey.
Just a little bit, though.
We're okay, because look, we got 64 people that's still alive. They will listen to
I want to, since we're still here, I just want to throw out a quick at the beginning. I've totally forgotten. I should have. I didn't notice that Dr. Joyce Valenzo is in here, and she is really the reason that when we started talking about how did you get into your PLN, she is the reason that I am part of all of my PLN, because she was my advisor in my graduate program, and she said, you have to get on Twitter. So requirement for class, you have to get on Twitter. And then she also she encouraged me to submit some writings to Knowledge Quest and to talk to different kinds of people. And so her encouragement really helped me get out and take part in what was going on. So I see a lot of people when we were talking about that in the chat kind of saying like, oh, I really need to do that. I should do that. I know I should, but I never do. If you need that little bit of a push, here's that push. Just go out, start talking to people, and you're going to find yourself with connections all over the place before you know it. So make sure you do that. If you don't have your own Dr. V in your life, go out and just have somebody give you a little tap, a little push.
I love that. I had a recommendation too. It was for a grade though. Yeah, get online and listen to Amy's podcast. That was also a grade.
Yes, absolutely.
I failed to say this. Put this in the banner chat earlier, but please connect with our wonderful moderator Lauren at Mobley in the Mix, please.
Mobley.
Mobley in the Mix. You know what? It's been 2 days of click, 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 click. I do apologize. Everybody, make sure you follow her because she's doing a lot in her program. And you see, this is a newbie to the library world, and she's doing the doggone thing. So, yes.
You're going to want to rip off her orientation video that she just shared online.
Oh,
so good.
I saw that. Yeah. I was like,
that saved my voice. That saved my voice. I got that idea from online.
Very clever.
And it was great. Yeah, it was saved my voice. Just press play and I walked away for a little bit. And now my baby's here because my time is up. I told him to play outside till 5, and now it's 5:05, and she's looking at me like, oh, she said, shh.
Well, I don't want to go to another room because I'm so afraid that we'll have a repeat of what happened yesterday. So on that note, I just want to say to everyone, thank you for embracing a dream, an idea that we all had that we just wanted to do to help librarians that They don't have professional development for themselves in their districts, or they may not have a library director. I mean, I'm very fortunate what I have here, and I just realized that I'm very blessed that that's just not the case. So, free is my thing. Make it
Mhm.
free. And it doesn't. You know, the time that people gave of themselves over these 2 days has been so precious. Others have given more time because people have been monitoring the chat to make sure that we have a clean session. And I'm really appreciative of that because Steve was always on it. I tell you, he was
Yes,
constantly
always.
watching everything, and I appreciate that because it's hard to kind of shift back and forth. So the thing is, we had a wonderful experience. We didn't have any problems with someone coming in trying to be disruptive or negative, and I'm just tickled pink behind that, and I just am so happy that everybody could join us. Let me just give you a little couple of tidbits before I let you go. The uh, I'm still waiting for some of the presenters to give me additional material so we can put it on the PD site. Um, so hopefully we'll have everything up, but please do not post those the attendee sheet anywhere online. I'm making everything public so those people who couldn't register in time will be able to see everything. So that's the great thing. They'll be able to see it hopefully starting tomorrow. And they will be able to enjoy it. And I've noticed that people who already had access to it because they registered, the you know some of the videos have been viewed like over 100 times. So we're well on our way. The PD site is, let me give it to you just to be on the safe side. It is tiny URL boss librarian PD. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Tiny URL.com. I'm sorry. Boss Librarian PD. Okay. Folks are already talking about when we're going to do it next week, next year. Look, I just was able to get through these last 2 days. I don't know what's going to happen next year. But the thing is that I do want to do something for folks who just don't have access to professional development. That's a problem. And this is one of the reasons that our profession is getting hit so badly is that
Mhm.
when you don't provide ongoing professional development for any type of educator, they're going to have problems. They're going to have problems.
Mhm.
These PDs these days are too expensive. So let's keep it free and let's just keep it moving and let's keep it, you know, functional for our librarians. So, uh, on that note, I hate to say this, but we're gonna close out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
You've been
much.
wonderful. You've been so wonderful. Thank you, Jean. Yes, this is what equity does look like. You know. This is your first PD in. Oh my God. This is your first PD in 5 years. Wow. See, this
Yes.
is what I'm talking about. This is
Yes.
exactly what I'm talking about. Stay tuned. The clubhouse is coming back sometime in September. We haven't even discussed this yet because everybody's trying to get back to school first. So we will let you know when we start the clubhouse rooms again. And on that note, I'm going to end this session. Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Be
again,
blessed and have a
everybody.
wonderful school year.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Casey.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Take care, everybody.
I'm going to pop a couple more of these and then I'm going to end the broadcast. Yeah, Queen, you need to connect with all of us. Yes.
And Casey, the podcast is also free. So we have,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
podcast is not when you see the word subscribe, people get nervous, but no, podcast is always free. Always free.
That's right. Yeah, it does throw some people. Yeah, when they see
Yeah.
subscribe. Yeah, but totally free.
Oh, he's playing his song. It's time to leave.
It's time to go. All
Bye,
right,
you guys.
57 of us. Bye-bye. Take care.
Open all the doors and let you